How did you read today? Because I thought this was actually worse than the Senate.
I agree. I thought today was an unmitigated debacle. And I thought she embarrassed herself, the office, the department, and frankly, the country on the international stage. I don't think I have seen a more unprofessional performance by a lawyer in any context, in a courtroom, in Congress, anywhere. I was not surprised because she did do a version of this in the Senate, and she just seems to have taken it up a level because she's gotten more unpopular and there's been more pushback. The thing that struck me today was sort of a small thing that hasn't gotten sort of picked up in the coverage, which is she did a whole opening statement where she did not even mention Renee Good or Alex Preddy, and she did something even worse. She implied at one point during that opening statement, she said that there were unavoidable altercations on the ground. Now, they have been doing this for weeks. Her, Todd Blanche, a.k.a. Man Bondi, as I call him, have been doing this for weeks.
I'll go with that.
They have been trying to blame these people for being killed at the hands of federal officers and trying to blame state and local law enforcement officials for killings that were done by federal law enforcement officials. I mean, it's gross. And she can't even mention their names. I mean, she's crossed lines of professionalism, ethics, but she's now past the line of decency. I mean, today was a mess.
That's kind. I do think she is past the line of decency. And we have said before here on this show that, look, the cabinet secretaries, particularly in this administration, they were picked because of their loyalty and their willingness to do what the president wants to be done. And the attorney, there are many particular positions that I think are just, they're political hacks. Like, that's why they were picked. And Pam Bondi, although at one point she was a lawyer that even Democrats would say, you know, I don't necessarily agree with her, but she's a good attorney. That Pam Bondi is not the person that currently serves as the Attorney General of the United States. And so I was dismayed, but not surprised, if you will, by her performance. She tried to shenan, though, again this time, and Jamie Raskin understood the assignment and was not going to allow her to run over the Democratic members. Lisa Rubin, your thoughts on just what we witnessed today?
Well, Simone, the first paycheck I ever got was from the House of Representatives when I was 16 years old as a congressional page. There's no place I love more in this earth than the United States House of Representatives. And it made me beyond sad to see today's hearing because Pam Bondi seemed to fundamentally misunderstand what a congressional hearing is supposed to be about. It's fundamentally an exercise that exposes our separation of powers, right? She is an appointee of the president. She is responsive to him. But at the same time, the department itself relies on Congress for its budget, and Congress gets to exert oversight. And in pursuit of that oversight, she has to testify to a variety of committees that have legitimate questions for her. She didn't seem to understand that that was the purpose today, that she was the witness, that she needed to answer questions. She mistook this for one of those cabinet meetings that has turned into a presidential pep rally because she started to try to talk about the Dow Jones Industrial Average. And I was thinking to myself, even in the best of circumstances, the most lopsided Republican majority, there is no House Judiciary Committee hearing that I'm aware of where the Dow Jones would necessarily be an appropriate topic of conversation. So her efforts to distract from the members' questions on both sides of the aisle, I thought was embarrassing. But even more embarrassing, in some respects, was the fact that the Republican members, with a couple of exceptions, Thomas Massie and Chip Roy, they weren't interested in getting to the heart of issues of interest to our nation as a whole. You saw the Democratic members asking a lot about Jeffrey Epstein, obviously, but also about ICE and incidents on the ground in Minnesota and other states. Steve Cohen, for example, asked about things that have been happening in Memphis. But when you turn to the Republican members, they were acting as if this was business as usual. We were talking about a congressional hearing maybe 20 years ago. Thomas Tiffany of Wisconsin was asking her about a property dispute in Lac du Flambeau, which is a community in Wisconsin, where there's a dispute between an Indian tribe and the town about access to roads. And I kept thinking to myself, what universe are they living on? It was the paradigmatic Earth 1 and Earth 2, as our colleague Nicole Wallace likes to say.